report, the UN Environment report, UN Environment, then referred to as UNEP, report on Ogoniland, and the assessment which was done between 2009 to 2011, report submitted to our government, the government of Federal Republic of Nigeria in 2011. And we had the privilege to commence the implementation of that report in April 2017 when the project coordination came live here in Port Harcourt. As you all know, we started with our office in Nosra, and until we now moved to this office in Aba Road. But between then and now, we have carried out series of activities that resulted in the very recent event of introducing the contractors to site by the Honorable Minister of Environment, Surveyor Suleiman Hassan Zarima, last Friday at Eleme. So I'm pleased to announce to you that as we speak to you, we have successfully introduced 16 contractors to remediate 16 lots across the 4 LGAs of Gokana, Kana, Tai, and Eleme local government, starting in Eleme local government. On Friday, the Honorable Minister of Environment introduced 5 contractors to the site in Eleme. On Saturday, the Honorable Minister proceeded to Tai and introduced another 5 contractors to the communities there. So 5 lots in Eleme, 5 lots in Tai. On the following Monday, I proceeded to Gokana, introduced another 5 contractors to Gokana site. The communities where these contractors were introduced in Eleme were in Alode and in Ibubu and Ogali, right? In Tai, the communities were in Korokoro, in Botem, and in Ueke. In Gokana, the communities were in Kedere, in Mogo, and in Bodo communities. We proceeded on Tuesday to Kana local government, where we introduced 1 contractor to a site in Paya local government area, in Paya community in Kana local government area. So that is the update as to where we are now. But I'm going to just take you through the journey so far from where we started. I welcome you all to this special session with members of the press. First, I want to commend you all for the overwhelming support that you have given to this project by providing unbiased reports to Nigerians since inception. This briefing is to bring you up to speed with the activities of HYPREP in the cleanup process in terms of milestones achieved and where we are today. In telling the HYPREP story, we cannot but recall that this project was born out of decades of struggle, which drew the attention of government to the plight of the people of Ogoni. The United Nations Environment Program was invited to undertake an assessment of oil pollution in Ogoniland with a view to finding a solution to what will bring an end to the sufferings of Ogoni people. The report made set of recommendations for government, for communities, for regulators, for IOCs, and other stakeholders. The current administration of President Muhammadu Buhari set up a new HYPREP to implement the set of recommendations, including emergency measures to be carried out along the core task of remediation. These emergency measures were to provide immediate relief to the people who have suffered over the decades, to provide potable water and health study. In 2011, UNEP submitted a report to the federal government on the environmental assessment of Ogoniland. Today, that document is popularly known as a UNEP report. The report contains detailed information on the assessment, which covered contaminated land, groundwater, surface water, sediment, vegetation, public health, industry practice, and institutional issues, as well as recommendations and steps to be followed in carrying out the cleanup exercise. On June 2nd, 2016, the federal government flagged off the cleanup project. An implementing body was set up to midwife the cleanup activity in Ogoniland, and the mandate to restore the environment and restore livelihood of the people. A project coordination office for HYPREP was set up to midwife the cleanup process in Ogoniland. The UNEP project of 2011, report of 2011, which serves as a blueprint for the implementation of the cleanup of Ogoniland, specifies set of recommendations, including emergency measures, which will be carried out alongside the core tasks. These measures were to provide emergency relief to the people who have suffered over the years. I also want to add at this point that the commencement of remediation work in Ogoniland also marks the commencement of remediation work in the Niger Delta. The Ogoniland project only served as a template for the rest of the region. So what the significance of what we have done in Ogoniland is that by extension, the commitment of the federal government to resolving the environmental challenges in the region has just been addressed, commencing in Ogoniland. I also want to say that the government went further beyond what was recommended in the UNEP report on Ogoniland to add another bit of sustainable livelihood. That is the livelihood aspect of the project. And that is the aspect of the project that provides opportunity for the locals to be trained in different skills for them to have alternative means of livelihood. In line with the recommendation for emergency measures, HYPREP also carried out medical outreach in two phases, first in 2007 and another in 2018 in Gokana, Kana, Tai, and Eleme local government areas, where patients with various medical conditions were attended to, including surgeries. About 2,000 patients were treated and with over 400 surgeries carried out in course of the medical outreach. This very important activity of HYPREP served to achieve two purposes: to provide medical care for the Ogoni people, as well as provide the initial data that will be used for the health study. Employment. Being a federal government project, HYPREP is fully guided by the rules and regulations that apply in public service. To ensure full accountability and adherence to exact rules, staff from relevant federal ministries have been deployed to the project. We have also engaged experts and professionals from Ogoniland at various levels in the project coordination office. Procurement. As a project of the federal government of Nigeria, our procurement processes adopted for HYPREP for the award of contracts to the remediation work was done in line with the Public Procurement Act 2007. HYPREP has, in keeping with to lay down procedures, followed due process in handling the award of contracts for cleanup. Advertisements were placed on 30th April 2018 for the remediation contracts in federal journals, in the Federal Tenders Journal, local and foreign media, including the Ogoni Star, to allow for local participation in the international competitive bidding, which was the adopted mode of advert for international and local contractors. At the end of the vigorous exercise, 21 contractors came through successfully, and these were the contractors that were invited for kickoff meeting, culminating in the eventual handover of site to them recently. On public health, we have also simultaneously advertised for water and health experts so as to help us provide water in the community. The procurement process for getting these contractors have reached advanced stages, and any moment from now, just like you saw with the remediation contractors, you will also see a set of contractors introduced to the communities that will provide water in the region. Sensitization. The Honorable Minister of Environment appointed only a couple of weeks ago. We've had the pleasure of inviting him, and he actually went to sensitize the Ogoni community. You saw him recently at the palace of His Royal Majesty GNK Giniwa. You saw him at the palace of Chibebe Upabi. You saw him also the traditional ruler, the palace of the traditional ruler in Alode, and in the second community we did the handover service and activity. Part of what the Honorable Minister was doing was apart from handing over the site, was also further sensitization of the people on the importance of this project and the need for them to support. And you also the overwhelming support of the youth and the leadership of these communities in course of that. So the sensitization process is continuous. We continue to engage with different level of stakeholders. HYPREP has, through its communication and community engagement unit, carried out a robust sensitization exercise in all the impacted communities while successfully engaging with traditional rulers, women groups, youth, pressure groups, civil society organizations, members of the press, and other stakeholders. HYPREP has, since its inception till date, recorded several milestones in coordinating the processes for the commencement of remediation work in Ogoniland. HYPREP has continually made appearances on TV stations and other media to bring the population up to speed with our activities. Documentaries on our activities are also produced, and these documentaries are available at our various social media platforms on our Twitter, Facebook, and our website. We will continue to sensitize the people of Ogoniland every step of the way in the execution of the project. The Project Coordination Office has put in place a robust communication strategy that enables people in the community have regular interface with the Project Coordination Office. We're in constant engagement with the local authorities, such as traditional rulers, youth bodies, women leaders, village heads, and faith-based organizations to sensitize them on the project. From April 2017 to date, the PCO has carried out sensitization in 4 different levels: the general stakeholder opinion engagement, with the community leadership, youth and young professionals, other youth groups, civil society, town hall sensitization. And I want to add that in carrying out this sensitization, we have involved MOSOP and NICOP, which are the decision-making body of the Ogoni MOSOP, and the youth wing, which is the NICOP. They have been part of our engagement process, including other Ogoni youth organizations in course of doing this. The Project Coordination Office on December 29, 2017, organized the first roundtable meeting with high-level stakeholders on the project at the Presidential Hotel. The second meeting was held on 3rd August 2018. In addition, HYPREP has carried out community-by-community engagement to sensitize them on the engagement of contractors for the first phase of the cleanup project, and what should expect from the contractors, what should be expected from the contractors. They have also been sensitized on the role of traditional councils, youth, and all that is involved in the successful implementation of this. We are pleased, like I said earlier, to announce to you that as of today, we have 16 contractors introduced to 16 sites, and work is ongoing as we speak, which is the actual deliverable of this project. So remediation is ongoing. Recall that the UNEP report is the result of an assessment submitted 8 years ago, and with set of recommendations considered as emergency at the time. In implementing this report 8 years later, we thought it necessary to develop a new strategy of implementation. And so in doing this, we thought that what was an emergency that was not implemented 8 years ago, of course, remains emergency. And even the things that were not considered emergency 8 years ago are now also emergency. So we now thought that all the activities, as recommended in the UNEP report, should be attended to urgently and concurrently. So we are now implementing the strategy for implementation is to adopt all that needed to be done 8 years ago that wasn't done as urgent activities. And that is the reason you see remediation work going on at the same time with the water, with the health studies, continuously as we have done and commenced the procurement processes for these activities. Like I explained before, just like you saw the contractors doing the remediation work, you will soon see the contractors doing the water works, and you'll soon see the companies doing the health works simultaneously. It is important that we adopt this strategy so as not to allow for further delay in the implementation of this report that has been delayed by over 8 years. We have to also commend the federal government, the president, President Muhammadu Buhari, for implementing and keeping his words, keeping his promise to the Ogoni people. And by extension, like I said, what is happening in Ogoni today means that the Niger Delta region and the environmental challenges that the region faces is being addressed, starting in Ogoni land. I would want to, at this point, emphasize that we have spoken about capacity building and involvement of local contractors in UNEP and the implementation of this project. The reason UNEP was invited to do the assessment of Ogoniland was because we wanted the best of hands to handle the assessment of the degraded land. Following UNEP assessment, we also needed to carry out remediation that meets the recommendation of UNEP. UNEP recommended for the best hands, best international hands to remediate Ogoniland. And in line with that, every step of the way, we had to go back to UNEP to find out the interpretation of every action we needed to take. So when we were about to advertise for companies that would do this work, we went back to UNEP and we asked, how should we proceed? And the answer was, we should proceed with an international competitive bidding. What that meant is that international companies around the whole world should be invited to bid when it came to remediation of Ogoniland. And that's what we did. It was that process that produced the 21 contractors that you have seen at the 21 lots. And in designing this project, it was obvious, and it was also taking into consideration the need to build local capacity, both in the individual, in the scientists, and in the companies, the Ogoni companies that will participate in this process. So part of the strategy is to build capacity of the Ogoni companies, so that as we progress, we will include more and more of the local companies in the implementation process. So the idea was not to adopt the same local practices and local companies in remediating this land, the same process that landed us in this situation. So we wanted an international practice, an international standard, and companies with international partners as well that could deliver this thing. We believe that there are companies in Ogoniland that could do this, and all such companies will be considered as going forward. But it's more important that we develop capacity of the local companies to participate actively and fully in this as we progress. So for the records, on one of our visits to Kedere, we have had very strong support from the Ogoni youth. Like I explained, the support of the youth, of the leadership of Ogoni people to this project is not in doubt. For those of you that went with us to Eleme, to Tai, and to Kana and Gokana, you would say that each of these communities, we had the support of the leadership, we had the support of the youth, and that continued to be the case. However, there are people who might think differently. In a democratic society, you must tolerate and accommodate divergent views, and this project is open for all those who believe that we could have done things differently to engage with them. We have an open doors policy. We allow for constructive engagement, and we continue to engage with all stakeholders at any level. So if there are things that you believe that this project could have done differently, please feel free to officially engage with the office. I'm talking about other people, both from Ogoni and non-Ogonis, who believe that they had other views as to the way the project should progress. But the commitment of the federal government in attending to the environmental challenges in Niger Delta and in Ogoniland in particular is absolute. You could see that with the recent handing over of sites to the different contractors by the Honorable Minister of Environment, Surveyor Suleiman and Hassan Zarima, recently in Eleme and in Tai, and following up in Gokana and Kana local government. Like I said, the isolated incident where an individual threw a petrol bomb at one of our vehicles, which was actually conveying journalists, and we went after this person who ran into the community. That is an isolated criminal incident that the police are trailing these people. I believe that the perpetrators of this will be brought to book, but that in no way does it reflect the disposition of the peace-loving Ogoni youth to the project. They have given us all the protection, all the encouragement that we need, and we continue to enjoy that support. We appeal to the Ogoni people, to the youth, and we also thank them for all that they have done for the project. Thank you very much.